Kotaku always puts out some of the worst opinions in the gaming industry, and recently they put up this article saying the most stylish RPG ever revived a dying genre, and they are getting absolutely roasted for it. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or through YouTube memberships. So, of course, it will come as no surprise to many of you that Kotaku is putting out yet another article that they are getting absolutely roasted for, but this one is about JRPGs and specifically Persona 5 because they decided to put out this article titled 6 years ago, the most stylish RPG ever revived a dying genre, and Persona 5 breathed new life into a floundering genre back in 2017. Now, of course, I love Persona 5 like so many people. I think that it's got so many amazing elements to it, but do I think that it was part of any kind of dying genre? Not at all whatsoever. So it says, now that we finally entered the final few days of 2023, the year's bumper crop of new game releases has slowed to a trickle. With long, lazy days looming ahead, it's a lovely time to cuddle up with one of the biggest, beefiest games in your backlog. And if you're looking for beef, RPGs are the way to go. On December 15th, Atlas announced that Persona 5 crossed a major sales landmark. The modern fantasy RPG and its spin-offs have now sold more than 10 million copies worldwide, and nowadays the Persona series seems like a sure bet, but just a few years ago it was a niche fascination for a few devoted weebs. If you haven't checked it out already, now is your chance. It to me is funny that they are sitting here saying that, you know, JRPGs were a niche fascination, and basically only a few years ago Persona saved this niche genre, or what they like to call a dying genre, because it's just so absurd. Now, of course, though, they are not just talking about JRPGs. Part of this article is talking about JRPGs, but another part is talking about turn-based RPGs, so they can't even really decide which genre they kind of revived, even though I don't think that Persona 5 necessarily revived everything. There are certain genres of games that come in waves. You will have a few years of a certain genre being super popular, then they'll die down, then they will be, really popular again. I mean, I think that we're kind of getting to be at that point with something like Battle Royales. For a few years, like every single major multiplayer game was a battle royale, but now they're kind of dwindling. But I don't necessarily think the interest will dwindle a lot. I think that it just will be a few years until developers decide to start making those games again. Same with, turn-based titles. I mean, it is an insult to talk about how the most stylish RPG ever revived a dying genre, because JRPGs have not been dying, neither have turn-based. I mean, Persona 5 is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but this is just not true. The fact that this activist goes on and on about the state of these different types of games, but completely ignores the existence of games that came out right around the same time because it doesn't fit into their narrative, is insane. Because within 2017, in the span of, a few years right around it, we had new ports of Dragon Quest 7 and 8, Bravely Second, the Trail series, and Atelier series got almost yearly releases. We also have Pokemon. I mean, the list goes on and on. But then if we look directly after Persona 5, because that came out at the end of 2016, mid-2017, you also had Dragon Quest 11 and Divinity Original Sin 2, which were absolutely giant titles, but they're not talking about any of these games. Instead, they've just decided to put up this article that basically says nothing. It was just a filler article because they didn't have anything better to write. And of course, they go on to say things like Persona 5 isn't without its flaws. The Palace which you'll encounter late in the game is an absolute chore, and the game's portrayal of same-sex relationships is about as subtle as a sack of hammers. Of course, they just had to mention this, and the game isn't homophobic, and no matter how much you say that it is, it isn't, Kotaku, but they are getting obliterated over this terrible, terrible article and take. People are saying things like loved P5 but dying genre, Kotaku, gonna Kotaku, I guess, yes, this is exactly it. They are putting out an article with no substance and they're just expecting people to read it and to love it and to back them, or, you know, the classic hate bait article. But you'd think that they would have gone a little bit heavier against, you know, why they hate Persona 5, even though they claim they really like it. You'd think that they would, you know, talk more about the alleged homophobia that they hate in it, because that's usually the angle that they attack Persona. What they do, you know, have a little snippet at the end, but it's not in depth. Yes, and Ellie is the first female protagonist ever. We get it. You don't play video games. I mean, this article just cements the fact that this writer, Jen Glennon, never heard of this individual, does not actually play video games, because they've got no knowledge of any of the games that they're talking about. I wish the Trail series was as popular as Persona. It's popular, yeah, it's not as popular as Persona, but it is still popular. I mean, you still say the name and many, many people are going to know what it is. Leave it to Kotaku journalists to create drama. Is this new employee of yours just using ChatGPT to write articles? It sure seems like it. Yeah, I mean, it is a very suspicious article that really does kind of seem like it's AI written. I mean, there's, you know, paragraphs and paragraphs, but there's really no substance to any of them. It's honestly pretty pathetic, and they did actually get community noted. Now, the community note was removed, but the community note was up, and I mean, I get why it was removed, right? It's a bad opinion expressed in a hyperbolic way, but community notes don't really exist to correct bad opinions, which is what this article is, but they got community noted, and it says JRPGs have never been a dying genre. In fact, Pokemon is considered a JRPG. Yep, it is, and it is still a massive success in terms of sales. And from the critical point of view, Nier Automata and Dragon Quest XI were also released that year. Oh yeah, Nier as well. I mean, we are talking about tons of different games right around the same time period, and they do talk, you know, about JRPGs and turn-based, which is why I felt it was important to give you all this massive list. But yes, I mean, it's just classic Kotaku getting absolutely destroyed for their bad takes, which they deserve, because they shouldn't be putting out these almost AI written fodder articles trying to attack, you know, games and also genres with millions and millions of fans. And it is always a very good day to see Kotaku get absolutely roasted. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.